What if you didn't enjoy this weekend? You won't enjoy anything, will you? Welcome to It's an Arsenal Thing podcast. And with me, I've got the Podcateers. I've got Jay. Lovely to have you back, mate. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good.
And Lauren in Barcelona. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, especially after this weekend.
It's been amazing, isn't it? What a weekend, what a win, what an atmosphere. Just seeing that stadium that was lifeless, soulless a few years ago, bouncing, rocking. It was fantastic to watch. This is what football is all about, isn't it? Two old rivals who've kind of lost their way, trying to rekindle their former glories. And the celebrations, the over celebrations, come on, please, come out. We loved it because it was brilliant. We'll discuss the incidents, the talking points, discuss the goals, the party injury, the reject back four. There's quite a list, Podders, and our player of the match. We'll also look forward to the return of the girls in the Champions League and how they could do this season with their new additions. Happy birthday to Carol Johns. She's one of the listeners' viewers. And Jose Antonio Reyes would have celebrated his 40th birthday. And we've also got to wish happy birthday to Bukayo Saka, who is just 22. Nightmare. Everyone's younger. 2004, when United kicked 7 bells out of Reyes. Do you remember that, Jay? And Scholes nearly ended his career in an FA Cup clash.
Yeah. The game at Old Trafford, the infamous 49th, 50th game, wasn't it? Gary Neville and Phil Neville, they sort of rotational fouling, and but I think Gary Neville should have got a red card for that on a few of those challenges. But typical. I don't know. I can't remember who was refereeing. I think it was Riley. I think Mike Riley might have been, and he was just shit scared of Ferguson. Just let Ferguson get away with what he wanted to. So
Sir Alex, isn't it? You can do what you like when you're Sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Now everyone gets Fergie time, as we said last week. Anyway, you won't remember that, Lauren, but he was a great little player, and unfortunately, they nearly ended his career. He was down on the floor, left, right, and centre. They hacked him to bits on Ferguson's instructions. Anyway, that's in the past. Arsenal and United has been a fixture down the years that has been superb, but as I say, it's gone off the boil in the last few years, mainly to changes behind the scenes and personnel. It seems to have changed over the last few seasons. Do you agree with that, Lauren?
Absolutely. I think, it seems they're two teams who somewhat are similar in their progression. They're both teams are sort of in a transition phase, as they call it now. I think obviously we're a good bit further ahead than they are. I'm sure we're probably going to talk about things that go on behind the scenes there with United, but I think from what you can see, I think Arsenal are a very good example of a club that's well run and that has a lot of, a very clear path ahead and how to get back to that level, where I really feel as though United, they've thrown the same, the same solutions every year to the same problems. They have a relatively old enough squad. They always seem to go for players, towards the end of their careers, not towards the end of their careers, but older players like Casemiro and Eriksen, like they got in last season, and then they have a crop of young players coming through, and it just doesn't really seem like it's clicking for them the same way it's working for us. And I think it probably does stem back to ownership and behind the scenes issues, as you mentioned there, Tom. But I think the past few seasons they've been pretty hefty meetups, and despite maybe we're both not going for the titles or going for the same at the same level that we once were, I do think it's a game that always delivers. And for a neutral, I think it's probably one of the best games, not so much for us when it doesn't go our way, but it is always a very, very entertaining game because of that history that's there.
Quick fact, Arsenal have finished higher than United for 7 out of the last 10 seasons. So hurrah for that, and many more to come. Jay, Thomas Partey out. Were you thrilled? There was no chance of him sneaking into that right-hand spot.
No, I wasn't thrilled, no, because I mean, I think there was rumours that he was sort of earmarked for that role, that number 6 role, just in front of the back four. So he was going to be moved from the right back slot, and which I was quite looking forward to, because we might get to see Ødegaard and Rice and Partey. those three in midfield, which I think is our strongest midfield three. And then it came out, a day or two before that there was rumours of him being injured, and then Arteta says he was going to be out for a few weeks, and then post-match Arteta says it doesn't look good. So few sort of conflicting messages coming out from the manager, but it's a blow. But I think I saw a stat going around where it's saying he's only played roughly around 60% of the games. And when he was in Spain, that was unheard of. He very rarely got injured. So we all know that he's not necessarily somebody that we can rely on from a physical point of view. And we've got a good. I mean, in Declan Rice, we've got a player that's versatile, who can play either at 6 or a bit further up as an 8. And he just slotted in there, and he was absolutely brilliant, wasn't he, Declan Rice? So we didn't miss Partey too much, but it's a blow still because he's a top midfielder, and there's not many better. At the base of the midfield, he's when he's on form, the way he breaks up play and the way he links. You look at how many times the fullbacks give him the ball in a game, and he's constantly going forward. He's on the half turn, looking to get the wide men into play. It's a blow, and I hope he's not out for too much, too much longer, because I'm sure we'll get onto a certain Kai Havertz, but he's still definitely a work in progress. So,
Mr. Havertz, bless
him. Partey back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't want to see any player injured, but it was somewhat of a relief that we weren't going to have to face that conundrum. Was Mikel going to play Thomas Partey at right back? Because it just doesn't work. Huge amounts of space that is left open, corridors of space for people to run into. Let's just get on to that team. It was 4-3-3. Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Rice, Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah, and Martinelli. Happy with that side, Lauren? No Vieira, no Trossard, no Jesus. But sticking with Nketiah, which I think was the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, overall, I think I was very happy. I think the Thomas Partey injury was a blow, because I do think he would have played that 6th role. We would have seen Declan Rice play that bit further up, probably taking over Havertz's role. I think, obviously, we spoke so highly of Vieira last week when he came on against Fulham. He was exceptional, but I still think it's a bit early for him to be expected to have that same impact in the starting 11. I think he's an amazing, impact sub to have, and I was happy for him to come on as he had done in the Fulham game. I think if Partey had been injured, we probably would have seen a slightly different midfield three, like Jay mentioned there. Rice, Partey and Odegaard, with Havertz dropping down, but unfortunately injury didn't allow us to do that this time. But hopefully we will see that sooner rather than later, because I think that's what everyone's looking forward to seeing. I think it's a very exciting midfield trio that everyone's really looking forward to seeing. And look, we've got plenty of games that we can to go. We're very early in the season yet. We're going to see it at some point. And look, the main thing is we got the 3 points, and we can't be too upset. But I think overall I was happy. And yeah, Trossard, Vieira, I think Trossard didn't really impress when he started in the previous game, and like I said, Vieira, it's a bit too soon. So overall, I think it was probably the best. I was delighted the back four we got our back four back as we wanted as well. So that was the main thing that I looked at, and so I was happy overall.
Yeah, you touched on it yourself. Partey is a bit glass, isn't he? Have we missed a trick just dipping in the transfer window one more time?
Lauren?
We have Jorginho as well. I think a lot of
people. How comes he's passed it down to you? He's having a think, isn't he? He's having a fun. Go for it, Lauren.
No, it is. It's interesting. I think it is an interesting one. I think Partey's injury, as much as we give out about him at right back, I think it leaves us a bit more vulnerable in the defensive positions, because we're now 2 players down. 2 players in the full-back positions, with Timber and Partey now injured for however long it'll be. I think Partey's looks a bit more promising in that we won't have to wait 6, 8, 7 months, however long it will be for Timbers. But I was quite surprised that maybe we didn't go in for even a loan deal for a proven fullback. But in terms of the midfield role that Partey plays so well. I mean, we're in a much better position than we were this time last season, having to rely on Lokonga. Now we have Jorginho, we have Rice who can slot in there. So yeah, I think direct cover for Partey probably not, but I think it would have been more beneficial to potentially look at, you know, even a short-term loan deal for a fullback. I don't know if you agree with that, Jay. Do you have time to think there?
No, yeah, no.
He's had a long week at work. That's what it is.
It's only Tuesday. I think it's tricky to juggle the short term. You know, I think we all see the problems with those short term signings, because before you know it, those players are back, and then you've got a squad of players, or there's a number of players that aren't getting in, and you can't get rid of them. So, you know, and I think, you know, the culture at the club that Mikel has tried to instill, and like that we've all really got on board with, is a squad full of players that are all happy to be there, or they seem to be, and they all get along so well, and there's not too many egos, you know. So I think I can understand that it is tricky to try and, you know, I can see the tricky side of bringing someone in on a short term basis. I think in midfield we're all right. Like, you know, I think Jorginho can come in. I think it always seems worse when you're playing against Man United at home, isn't it? You know, like, it's always, if this game was, I mean, you say that we played Fulham last week, so I don't mean any disrespect to those or any team, but when it's Man United, everything seems worse, or when it's a bigger game, it seems more of an issue. But fingers crossed he's back. You know, Thomas Partey's back sooner rather than later. That's, you know, because he's a key player for us, isn't he? Still, you know, he is. He just cannot stay fit. And
in the midfield.
Yeah, in midfield. Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in midfield. Yeah, yeah. I think we said last season, didn't we, that we got to a point, all of us did. I think it was sort of in the new year, or, you know, or the last time he picked up an injury, and it's like, we can't rely on him now, really, as a reliable starter. And, you know, 60% is that's not enough, is it? You know, for a player who plays in such a key position. So
never injured before he comes to Arsenal, and he's like breaks down every other week. But this was a game that was an object lesson in how not to defend. One point I want to bring up here: Rashford's goal. The defending was a bit shambolic, because he dragged two defenders and no one put a foot in. Is this a modern thing, Jay, where it's a recurring oversight? They're trying to cut down the space instead of putting a foot in. Everyone seems to be reluctant now to block down with a physical presence.
I think if you look at that goal, I think Ben White will probably feel that he could have done better. I think we were all probably screaming the same thing at the TV when Rashford gets the ball and he's running at the defenders. You want somebody to go to him. And to answer your question, I still think the players are taught to close down and stop the shot. You know, that this is like schoolboy stuff. Don't let the striker shoot. And you know what Rashford is going to do. He's one of the best at it. You know, he's one of the best left-sided forwards. Cutting in onto his right-hand side, you know where he was going to go, and it was going to take a massive save from Ramsdale to stop it. You know, and Ramsdale got a hand to it, and he nearly managed to keep it out, nearly managed to push it onto the post. Great finish. You knew what Rashford was going to do. You want somebody, whether it's your centre half or it's your fullback, as in Ben White in this case, to take control of the situation, to step out or to close him down. And I think Ben White was guilty of being maybe a yard or two out of position, which meant he couldn't close the space down. And Rashford's as good as they come. You know, the United team, you know, irrespective of, you know, that they look quite disjointed, they've still got good players, and and Rashford's one of them, and he's devastating. And I mean, you know, he's as good as they come, and you can't let him shoot. Can you? You just can't.
Well, once he took the touch, and then he pushed on.
It opened up for him.
Touch, and that was it.
It opened up for him, and that's where like you say, you wanted either William Saliba or Ben White to close that space down, but you know what he's going to do. And Ramsdale nearly got it, but yeah, it was disappointing because we were on top, weren't we? They had offered nothing. They were just passing along the back, you know, Onana and 5-yard passes here and there, and and then they hit us on the counter, and it was a bit of a sucker punch. That's what it
Well,
felt
this
like.
reminds me, Lauren, of last season where Rashford did exactly the same, and they did the same pass twice, split us open, and we obviously got ourselves banging trouble. But Rashford, you just can't defend against him. Right, let's get to the game. It looked like we were settling, Lauren, for a draw or an act of misfortune that could decide the fate or the outcome. We obviously didn't allow for that last 20 minutes of pulsating football. We'll get to that in a bit, but what did you make of the game up until that 20 minutes? It was a bit of huffing and puffing, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, I thought it was a very cautious game, and I just felt like both teams went out and they didn't really want to take any risks. They both obviously conceded very early last week, and I think that was kind of playing in the back of their mind. And one thing about Arsenal United is they always play the same style of football, and that's why it's so entertaining to watch, because Arsenal will press and they'll try and go for the possession, whereas United will try and get that goal on the counter attack, and that's what makes it such an interesting match for the neutral, as we were saying there earlier. It's such a great fixture in the Premier League calendar because of the style of play. You watch Arsenal City and they play very similar styles. United, they have a completely different brand of football than what we do. So I think both teams went into this very, very tactically. I think it was more of a tactical game rather than a physical game at many points. And you could see what United were trying to do. They're trying to invite Arsenal in on them. That's why, how many passes were strung across the back three for for United in that first 20 minutes? My God, I thought, I might as well turn off the TV now. We're not going to miss anything here now until the first goal comes. But it was painful to watch. It was really, really painful. But you could see what they were doing, and you could see Arsenal weren't really taking the bait. They were trying to remain that bit. They were trying not to create too much space for Eriksen to get that pass like he did for the goal, or for Casemiro to ping one up. So yeah, I thought it was a very interesting game tactically initially. Boring, of course, as a fan. You want to get those goals in early. You want to feel a bit more settled. Yeah, the first half, really, there was very little apart from those two goals that came in very quick succession, and I think, as we mentioned, the Rashford goal, what a player. You're not really going to stop him again. I do think Ben White got pulled out of position. I thought he looked a bit, for that goal, it looked as though him and Saliba were basically standing in the same position. And I wonder, was Ben White still kind of in his mind playing that centre-back role, which he's played the past few weeks up until this point, because they were basically, standing right in front of each other and they were offering very little. But it was a great reaction from the Arsenal team, and I'm sure we're going to get on to the Odegaard goal now. But yeah, the first half kind of expected a bit more, but I think it shows how much was riding on this game. Obviously, we're only 5 games in, but Arsenal United, it's always such a massive fixture, and it can really dictate how your season goes, and how the players are going to feel now coming back after the international break as well, I think.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, Jay. Opinions differ on this game. I thought we overall we pretty much bossed it. We looked better, the better team overall. There's no Paul Mack this week, so it will be absolutely wickedly biased, Podders. So never mind. We showed our cards quite early from the start, didn't we? Very intense, firm press, eager to contest the stray ball, and that's what I liked about us. We just kept pressure on top of the players. Because whenever the ball went backwards into their half, we seemed to have a string of players chasing after it, including Martin Odegaard.
Yeah. Before the game, you guys must have picked up on, like the atmosphere inside the stadium seemed really good. The fans all seemed really up for it. And this is a fixture that it's got so much history and it still means so much, even though, like, Lauren, you alluded to it perfectly. We're not quite where we were back in the days of Wenger and Ferguson, but you could sense it was a huge game. And yeah, I completely agree. I think it was just like Lauren said, we wanted to remain rigid at the back, because obviously we conceded those goals against Fulham. Ten Hag was obviously trying to get the defense, the Arsenal back 4 or 5 or whatever, to push up. So even though Nana couldn't ping the ball, because they were trying it, weren't they? They were trying, and there was a few, if you watch it back, there was a few like balls, the early attempts at trying to pull us open were way off the mark, but you could see that that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to control the possession, draw out our midfield, which would pull the defense up, and they're ping it in behind. Saying that, if you were to listen to Gary Neville, he was saying that, we should have pressed higher and we should have, but I didn't really go along with that. Let him have the ball there. Let the defenders, because they can't hurt us there, and they're going to make a mistake. Because I said when we were watching it, we were obviously chatting about the game, and it was like they cannot continue to pass at this rate across their own back line without a mistake happening, without a mistake occurring. And it's what we do when we get the ball. Now, another aspect of that first half that I really like, I mean, Martinelli was relentless, on that left-hand side. He gave Wan-Bissaka a really tough time. And Wan-Bissaka, although he's been criticised, since signing for Man United, he's quick and he's good in the tackle. And Martinelli just murdered him. And he was relentless over and over. And it's such a great weapon to have, especially when on the right, Bukayo Saka's not having his best game. He's not having his best period as an Arsenal player. And Martinelli stepped right up. And you could tell that when we were recycling the ball and recycling possession, getting the ball out to Martinelli was obviously, the players quickly realised that that's an area of the pitch where we can really hurt them. And don't get me wrong, obviously when you're emotionally involved in the game, you always think, oh shit, when that ball goes up, when United ping the ball long, you always think, oh God, they're going to catch us out. But when you watch it back, I completely agree, Tom. We bossed it. And we were the only team throughout, I would say, apart from, I'd say, a 10-15 minute spell in the second half where United did come on a bit more. We were the better team by some distance, and we deserved to get the win. But that first half, especially, Martinelli was just relentless. And then, obviously, we haven't mentioned the chance for Havertz in the first half.
We're coming to that. You take over. Go with that, Jay. Explain that away.
Yeah. It was
the century, flannel foot central.
Yeah, he found himself about what would you say, 3 or 4 yards out with a free shot on goal. And initially I thought it was Declan Rice. And then obviously he miskicked it, and that's just the way it's going for him at the minute, innit? You want something like that, just to, even a miss kick, to go into the bottom corner, don't you? Just to get a bit of confidence into him. But it was a difficult game for him, wasn't it, Havertz? He was a bit sloppy in possession. He was, if I remember right, he was the one that gave the ball away for Rashford's goal. I'm not giving up on him, not by a long way, but he is struggling, and especially when you got Fabio Vieira on the bench, who's coming on and really, impacting pretty much every performance now. He's looking much more far more confident. And but yeah, that chance. Well, I can't exactly remember the passage, the passage of play beforehand, but he ended up about 3 or 4 yards out, free shot on target, and he just completely missed the ball, or skimmed off the top of his boot. And then Lissandro.
Confidence for a striker is so key. Once you're on a roll and you've got a few goals behind you, then you come into your own. But it's that initial hump, isn't it? Right. The thing I wanted to touch on was Saka. Lauren moaned about it, I think it was last season. He never seems to get hooked, does he? I don't want to see. I'm not criticising him. He had a fairly pants game by his own kind of level. Bad touches, especially that howler in front of goal. That was awful. But it'd be interesting to see him replaced. Perhaps he just needs to get some air back in his lungs and just get some ambition back. I don't know, but would you agree, Lauren, with that?
100%. I think. Sorry, I'm have to mute myself. I agree with that 100%.
What are you doing, Anil? Mr. Mute.
No, I agree 100% with that. I think, we're obviously all going to focus on Havertz. It feels like he just has a target on his back. Every move that he makes is examined under a microscope. But I really do think Saka's had, by his standards, and let me just preface it with that, by his standards, he's had a very poor start, to the season. In saying that, he's still getting goals and he's still getting assists, but the level of performance that we expect and what we see him do, the beauty of watching Saka is in his movements and in the chances he creates, not even for himself, but for other people. He's such a live wire on that right-hand side. And it just feels like that's lacking a bit at the moment. Like you said, there was, last week against Fulham, there was a straight pass, and then, he missed an absolute sitter, which Saka of last season would have buried. And, it's just unusual to see. And, you know, like you said there, it's his birthday, he's 22 years of age. We expect the world of a 22-year-old boy, you know, and it can only do him good to give him a rest. And it's not as if we don't have the quality there now on the bench. I mean, Trossard, Nelson, when he comes on as well, he always makes a difference. Why not give them a start? And again, obviously, we're in a tough run of games. It's the start of the season. We don't really want to let the intensity drop. But I do believe that these players have a lot to offer. And Saka, as we said, he just looks a bit tired. He looks a bit drained. I don't think an international break is going to help him at all. So I think the best thing to do is maybe to give him, you know, even let him start the first 45 minutes and then take him off. Give someone else a chance, because I do think he's very integral to the team, to how they play. But it does look like he's running on empty at the moment. And the last thing that we want is a player like Saka to pick up an injury, to pick up, you know, or to fall into a bad run of form because he's been overplayed. And, you know, the amount of games that we have coming up, it's tough to see how he's expected to continue on this unbreakable run that he's on. Obviously, it's incredible, but you have to think about the well-being of the player. Someone so young, someone so important. I think it's better that we approach this with a bit more caution, as opposed to just, you know, letting him run his legs into the ground. And like I said, we have the talent there to give him the break that he needs.
These foofing international breaks get on my absolute tits. Can't stand them. It just breaks up the momentum. Jay, we've spoken about the Rashford goal. We will now get on to our reply. Odegaard seems to have grown into that captain's armband, doesn't he? He wasn't everyone's choice, but he leads by example. He leads by consistency, and he chases everything. He chases every ball down.
Yeah, the press was something that was one of the first things I noticed when he was on loan. Straight, you know, his relentless press. And I mean, from a technical point of view, there's not many players better than him. You know, when he picked up that ball from, I mean, it was Nketiah picked up the ball, didn't he, on the edge of the box. I think it went out to Martinelli, who then looked for the pullback. And I mean, what a finish that is! He didn't even really break stride, and Odegaard just put it straight into the bottom corner. You know, I think we all saw Onana dancing around, didn't we, after that Rashford goal? And, you know, about a minute later, he's picking the ball out of his own net. So, yeah, he's leading by example. He's, I mean, you struggle to see where Emile Smith-Rowe is going to get many games. Maybe he can be one that can come in for Saka, because at the minute, Odegaard's not going to get dropped, or not dropped, but, you know, you can't really even see him getting rested. So maybe Smith-Rowe can come in and do it and help out his pal on the right hand side. But lovely finish, and he's at the heart of everything for us, isn't he? He's Mr. Reliable. So yeah, superb performance from him.
Yeah, he is a sensation. Just 35 seconds that took. It was like the blink of an eye. Goal up our end, goal down their end, and it was all pandemonium everywhere, especially in the stadium. Lauren Lindelof did well just to get a yellow card, didn't he, on the tackle for Nketiah. Let's deal with some of the juicy bits. Good decision, bad decision. If that had been in a key area up near the box, I think he would have got a red.
I mean, it was a reckless. I wouldn't even call it a tackle. It was a reckless kick out, you know. Again, we discuss this every week, and I'm getting a bit bored and getting blue in the face saying it, but where's the consistency? Because I've definitely seen challenges like that before being given red cards, and the fact that it wasn't even checked, there was no mention of VAR, no nothing. It was a straight yellow, as opposed to even, you know, it was so dangerous. It was, and apart from that as well, I think they were the last two players back before the goal. So obviously it wasn't a clear-cut goal scoring opportunity, but, you know, it's not the kind of challenge that you want to be making, particularly away in a massive game like that, because it's just going to rile the crowd up. And I was particularly shocked that he only got away with a yellow card for that. I thought it was really nasty bit of play. It was careless. It was very, very careless. He obviously got caught out of position, and he was just throwing what he could to stop Nketiah getting away. But it was so reckless, and I think, thank God Nketiah didn't get injured from it, because I think, you know, it probably could have been a lot worse than it was. But yeah, there's plenty of, as always, plenty of decisions to be discussing, VAR or no VAR, you know. But yeah, that was one that I kind of sat there and thought, God, that's a bit bit reckless now. I don't know if that he would have got away with that in a
To
different
be
game.
honest,
You know?
it doesn't matter who manages Manchester United, what players they've got in the side. They come out and do that kicking and lumping stuff, and it really annoys me. They've done it for years and years and years. As I say, it doesn't matter who's there. Jay, Anthony Taylor's performance overall, what would you give it out of 10? I'd try 1, but you crack on.
Yeah, I mean, should we talk about the penalty or the non-penalty on Havertz?
Yeah, let's do that. 59 minutes. Havertz receives a pass from Nketiah before darting between Wan-Bissaka and Casemiro into the box.
And I mean, it looked like a penalty. It looked absolute stonewall penalty. And then it gets run back, and the contact looks minimal. You know, you've got to, I suppose you've got to say that, but there's still contact, right? And this is what there's an aspect of VAR that I don't like in these situations. Like momentum obviously never gets considered, because if you look at Havertz, lovely ball from Nketiah. Havertz takes it in his stride and puts it between the two defenders. He's quicker than them both, and obviously he's, from a positional point of view, they're having to turn, right? So if you watch it, as Havertz goes past Wan-Bissaka's hand, or his arm or hand makes contact with Havertz, and then he draws it away. And it's at the same time as when Havertz's ankle clips Wan-Bissaka. So basically, the way I look at it is that momentum is gonna knock him off balance, right? It might not be to the extent that would make him fall over like he did, but I still think there's a foul in there. I still think that yeah, okay, obviously it's an Arsenal podcast and we are going to be biased, but I think there have been penalties awarded for less than that. And I think that although the contact is minimal from Havertz's leg touching Wan-Bissaka, I think what isn't taken into consideration is the defenders closing in, Havertz going through, and the contact that is made on him is enough to knock him off balance. And I think part of the problem was because of the player it was on. And I think Kai Havertz is, you know, at Chelsea, he wasn't always the most likable of characters. And I think referees pick up on that. And I think referees, obviously, the VAR and the referees themselves, all the decisions are subjective. So, and I think it comes down to how they view individual players as well. And it shouldn't be like that. But I think certain players get treated differently than others. And I think in that situation, it worked against Kai Havertz. I thought it was the right decision that the referee gave initially, and I thought it was the wrong decision to rule it out. I also don't like the fact that when the referee gets called back to the screen, you know he's going to change his mind. Like, why doesn't the referee just rule it out? Why continue to delay the game for as long as they do when everybody knows? I think there's only been one decision. I think Michael Oliver's the only referee since the implementation of VAR that has gone against the video assistant referee and stuck with his original decision. You know, and of all the games that have happened since and all the decisions, every time the referee's gone back to the screen, he's gone with what the VAR say, which I just think is a delay in time. It builds up tension in a negative way and kills the game. But look, we were lucky. I wouldn't say we were lucky, because it was a point in the game where United were coming back into it. And I mean, I don't know about you lot, but I had a rotten headache, and I was, you know, obviously we're all incredibly involved. So it seems to obviously affect the team much more than it probably did. But look, I thought the referee, I don't know, I thought he did all right, I suppose. I just thought in that instance he made the right decision on the pitch, and I wanted him to remain strong when he went over to the screen and stick with what he originally thought. But I don't know if you guys caught any of it, but BT Sport aired the Howard web program today, the referee program, where Michael Owen is presenting it, and he basically what you hear is the VAR the conversation with the referee, and they discussed the Kai Havertz incident, and as they're reviewing it, the VAR are talking to the on-field referee, obviously, and basically saying you need to go and review it, and it needs rolling out. And the referee, as he's going over to the screen, the referee's saying, right, just play it for me as soon as I get there. And they're already telling him to rule it out. So why don't they just rule it out? Why does he need to go over to the screen? Because he's already saying to them, when I get there, play it. They play it. I think he sees, from what they showed on the screen, the referee, I think he looks at one or two angles and he goes straight away. He doesn't really even consider anything. He just goes with what he's being told. And I think the referees, more often than not, are happy to let the decision be made by the VAR rather than be strong enough to stick by what they say and say, you know what, I disagree with you. I think that's a penalty. But it's all subjective, and this is where VAR is ultimately flawed. But I thought the referee, I thought he did. I suppose he did all right. It's a stressful environment. It's a stressful game. Man United, the stress. It was a high tension. You could feel it. The atmosphere was immense, and I thought he did okay, but he just let himself down with that penalty.
Lauren, the thing that got me about that was you had Wan-Bissaka coming in, and then you had Casemiro coming in at the same time. So basically, they shut the doors on him. And just for the fact of that, I mean, it was like Casemiro's hip contacted, and it's like the channel was shut for him, and Havertz contacted with Wan-Bissaka's leg. There was no option for him. So in that case, for me in particular, it was a cast iron penalty.
Yeah.
Yourself, any more comments on that?
100%. I agree with that completely. I think everyone's focusing on the contact between Wan-Bissaka and Havertz, but Casemiro comes in and absolutely cuts him off. And I don't really understand what a player's meant to do when he's being sandwiched. He's making the run. Two players are coming in. They're cutting him off. Obviously, there's
like American football.
I mean, even if he's okay, maybe there's light contact, but there's going to be contact somewhere along the way when two players come in like this at you. I thought it was. Yeah, probably soft. I do think it was soft, but the ref was there. I think what Jay said there was absolutely perfect, and I actually hadn't heard anything from that from the Herald Web show, so that's really interesting. I'm definitely going to take a look at that. Something that I think we mentioned this before is the transparency, and I think these kind of conversations need to be, maybe not played over the stadium, but in rugby they have the radio that the viewer, the spectators in the stadium can listen to the conversations the referees are having. I think there is the risk that the spectators are probably going to influence the ref's decision by booing, and that's another risk. And I do understand that side of things, but I think they should be held accountable for what goes on the pitch in those 90 minutes. And if a referee handles the situation as they're meant to and says, look, right, if you suggest that I go over and look at it, I'm going to go over and look at it. They talk through it and then they say, right, okay, well, this is what I see, blah, blah, blah. But if you're saying, like you did there, Jay, they decide before, then what's exactly what you said, what's the point? What's the point of it?
I think the one last thing I wanted to say on that was, I think if that situation happens outside the box, I think it's a free kick to Arsenal. Yeah. And there's too many situations like that happen week in, week out across all games in the Premier League and Championship or whatever, where because the penalty ultimately is a penalty, the referee they're less likely to give it. And I think if Wan-Bissaka or like I say, if that sort of, like you said, the door closes on Havertz outside the box, we get a free kick, and that's where it really frustrates me. But should have been a pen. Right,
Podders, let's get down to a few more controversial bits. What have we got? 68 minutes. Arsenal pull a corner back to Martinelli, who side foots wide from 20 yards out. We had good use of subs, didn't we, in this game again? Who do we have? Jesus for Nketiah, Tomiyasu for Zinni, and Vieira for Havertz. 82 minutes. Saka could have sealed it, but he had that flannel foot, that case of flannel foot. 86 minutes, Højlund goes to ground. Lauren, did you think that was a pen? There was a little bit of argy-bargy. There was arms around the arms and arms around the waist. It was nothing, was it really?
I don't think there was. I think he came on, he played a very physical game. And look, he's playing against a very physical defender in Gabriel. I think it was a pretty fair match between the two. I think they gave as good as they got, and I think that was a very good call. I think overall the ref had a decent game. Obviously, it's a tough one, as you mentioned there, trying to manage a game of that magnitude with the crowd that's so tense. It was a very, very tense game. It felt like it was going to bubble over at any point when it got to, the 80th minute when it was 1-1. I think overall he had a very good game, and certain calls like that I thought he did well in. So, overall I don't think we can be too upset with the referee's decision. And that was a particularly good call because, two physical players going up against each other and they were given as good as they got. And I didn't see much in that. If the Havertz penalty wasn't given, then there's no way that should have been. So I thought that was a pretty consistent decision, which is something that we don't often say. But yeah, I think fair play there. That was the right call. Obviously, it didn't go against us, so it's easy for us to say.
There's no room for it, is there? Hey, banish that.
Get used to it. We could get used to it.
Right then, Jay. 88 minutes. United thought they won it with Garnacho. Is that how you say it? Nacho. What did you make of the offside ruling? I thought it was. Well, the arguments are because Gabriel's upper body is kind of leaning forward, but he had the presence of mind to actually stay back as he saw the ball.
Yeah, I thought it was a goal, and he's decent. That Garnacho, weird-looking guy, but he's decent, and he caused a lot of problems. And he's a good player, and he'll be a good player. But I thought it was a goal. I actually thought it was a foul in the build-up. I think it was Bruno Fernandes. It wasn't a foul, but I think he tackled Jesus, I think it was, and he put him up in the air. But and then I think, was it Ericsson or Fernandes? Whoever played the ball through, and there's no catching Garnacho, and he finished it well. And apparently, a lot of their players were in the faces of some of the Arsenal players, shouting abuse, being less than savoury, thinking they'd won the game. And I didn't think they were going to, even when they went back, I didn't think they were going to. I mean, I was surprised when those lines came up. But then again, Gabriel did what he did, stepped up just at the right time, just did that action of pushing his behind towards the halfway line, and he was offside. So, I mean, that's what VAR is for, ultimately, isn't it? You can't get, ultimately, you shouldn't get offsides wrong, when those lines come up. But I know we've obviously been victims of it in the past. But look, I was gutted. I'll be honest. I thought they'd nicked it, and it would have been a bit of a smash and grab, because although they had a fair amount of possession, the majority of it was, as we've already discussed, was at the back, and just possession where they weren't going to hurt us. But there was a little period, wasn't there, towards the end of or midway through the second half, where they come more into the game, and their substitution of Garnacho was good. Just going back to the penalty, I don't remember any of the United players or the non-penalty on the challenge on Højlund. I don't think any of the United players even appealed for it. I don't, and that's what, at the end, when Ten Hag was being interviewed, he was moaning, and I mean, he's deluded, that guy, on so many different levels. He's I get you've just lost, but I mean, he was spouting all kinds of rubbish. And I said, we were chatting, it was like none of us could even really remember it, because it wasn't. I mean, watching it back, yeah, it was that they had a bit of a wrestle, but they were both doing it. And I just wanted to say that, because it surprised me, and then it again surprised me afterwards when it was even, people were looking at it as a possible penalty, because I don't remember it even being close. But when Garnacho scored, oh God, I thought we blew it. Oh yeah, I thought we blew it.
Lauren, I've got to be honest, I'm not a fan of Ten Hag. I'm not a fan of who he picks. I'm not a fan of who he buys. His excuses are understandable, because you don't want to put the pressure on your players and say, hey, you guys, you just took your foot off the accelerator, or you had a bad shift at the office. What do you make of him and his method of football? I think it's a bit dated.
I mean, in terms of throwing the players onto the bus, that's exactly what he did. He came out and said, you know, it was Johnny Evans and Maguire who were at fault.
Yeah,
And
but
he
he
said, you
put
know,
them on.
exactly, that was going to be my next point. He's the one who chose, you know, I mean, what, first of all, I want to talk about just a very quick point to that. I mean, I think Arteta showed how much more class and how much more you know, how much more class he has as a manager. He always protects his players. He never speaks poorly of them. Even when, you know, we had the Aubameyang situation, he never threw him under the bus. He never said, you know, he's being a bit of a dickhead, like, you know, just want to get him out. He's not doing, you know, he always handled that with as much respect and dignity as he could. And, you know, at the end, he did what essentially was right for the club. And I think Erik ten Hag is, I think he's handled the situation horrendously. Obviously, tempers player towards the end of the game, but like you said, he was the one who made his decisions. And, you know, in-game management, we spoke, Arteta still has to improve a good bit, but his substitutions this season have been overall second to none. He's done a very, very good job with in-game management. I think Ten Hag showed that he hasn't been. I mean, who brings on Johnny Evans and Maguire when you're trying to defend a 1-1 draw? You know, even go to win the game against Arsenal in the Emirates. It was horrendous.
I thought it was an immaculate decision.
I mean, me too. But if I was a United fan, I would be absolutely going, "Are you joking?" But yeah, no, like I said, I think we've seen it time and time again. I don't think it's just an issue with the managers at United. I think it comes from the very top. But the way he handles himself this weekend, the way he threw his players under the bus, the way he managed the game, I'm not that impressed with him, to be completely honest. I mean, his record in away games against the big teams says it all. He doesn't have a clue what he's doing going up against them. And, you know, United have a lot of quality in certain areas of the pitch. Fernandes is able to pull out great performances every now and again. Rashford is probably one of the best left wingers in the league. We have to say it like that. I'm a big fan of Luke Shaw as well. I think he's decent. They do have a lot of quality throughout the pitch, but I just think, as you said, they're disjointed. They don't really look like they have an identity yet. And, you know, they can play the smash and grab football, but it's not going to get them up there consistently with the likes of Arsenal and City, because they don't really have that brand of football that they can consistently play. And a lot of the time it's just luck or hoping for the opposition to slip up. I'm not a fan of Ten Hag, and I do wonder how far he's going to get this season if the results continue to come in the way that they're doing. And, you know, if he's continuing to throw players under the bus as he is, I don't think that's a healthy environment to be in as a player. I don't know how many players are going to be able to continue to play under him if they feel, you know, the manager can turn on me at any stage, even if it's, you know, a rash post-match interview where tempers are high. I still think that's the height of unprofessionalism. And for a manager at that level, you would expect him to do what Arteta does, what Pep does, and that's step up and protect the players. That's what they're there for, you know, to manage the players, to make sure that the games are won. So yeah, I'm not hugely impressed with him, and I thought this weekend was a very good example of the just exactly where our, you know, young manager is, shall we say, and United's, because I think they're often compared, but for me, there's no comparison there.
Podders, we will get to the game in a minute, but this is an interesting one.
Can I just say one more thing on Ten Hag's rant at the end? You know, he was saying that the referee, you know, he was saying that we got all the calls and the referee got everything wrong. You know, just last week against Forest, I think it was Serge Aurier. United got a penalty, and Serge Aurier fouled Rashford, and there was very minimal contact, you know, and they got the penalty then. And I just thought it was a bit rich saying the referees have done them a hard one. And yeah, I mean, it's always I just wanted to just back up what Lauren was saying. It's always, when it comes to Ten Hag, it's always somebody else's fault. It's always whether it's Sancho, whether it's Ronaldo, whether it's whoever, it's never his fault. And he doesn't seem to take responsibility. When Sunday was a great opportunity for him to turn around and go, you know, we came there, we did well. The game could have gone another way. I may have made a few, you know, tactical decisions incorrectly, or team selection to start with. He could have come out and said he made a few mistakes himself, but he didn't. And I thought it was just bad, no class. And I said at the start of the season, I've struggled to see Ten Hag lasting this season. If he
I was
manages
just going
to,
to ask that.
I think that the Man United job, I don't know whether it's too big for him or his ego's going to become too much of a thing, because he's also got this whole thing with Anthony that's tough to navigate. But the Sancho thing, it's almost the complete opposite to what the culture is like at Arsenal now. Like players, you just can't imagine that. And I'm not saying that it will never happen, but you can't imagine, like a fringe player, say somebody like Reece Nelson, coming out and slagging off Arteta publicly like that and just firing back straight away. And the lack of respect and that Sancho obviously showed him, and he obviously in the interview afterwards said that basically Sancho's trains awfully and he deserved not to be picked. So great to see. I hope it continues. I hope United, because then they'll never get anywhere, will they? With a squad full of players where their egos are too big, ultimately they'll never achieve what they want to achieve. Back in the days when they won the league every year, Ferguson they were all scared of him, weren't they? All frightened of him. Pretty much the entire squad was, and that's definitely not the case now, is it?
No, not at all. They are in a mess from top to bottom. The uncertainty about the buy, the Sancho thing, the as you said, Anthony, the Greenwood thing as well. It's just a big cloud over Old Trafford, which is falling apart. By the way, Podders, if you've ever been there, you can gaping great holes. You could probably get a small dog through there. Anyway, let's get to that, Lauren. Let's get back to the exciting stuff. Declan Rice, 90, what was it, +6. What were you doing?
Amazing.
Where were you watching this match?
I was just at home, actually. Obviously, we're a United Arsenal household here, so it's always a very tense. It's always a very tense day in our house.
That.
Yeah,
I bet.
yeah.
Oh, is he still crying?
I know he's all right. He's trying to. I think he's forgotten about it. Every time I mention it, he just goes blank as if it didn't happen. So I have to respect that. I have to respect that. No, so it was not here. Here's a safe space, but we were just watching on the sofa, and I think it was Miko Richards saying at halftime, look, there's going to be more goals in it, and it got to the 96th minute, and you still felt a goal was going to come, whether it was United, whether it was Arsenal, you couldn't really tell, but my God, I know we're going to mention man of the match and everything after. Declan Rice, just have to say, what a player. And I think, Odegaard obviously was so vital to get that first goal back. But I think overall, Declan Rice absolutely bossed the game and was integral in the win. I think he's the, goal aside, I think he's the reason that we got those 3 points. The goal, again, it came from a lot of really great teamwork. I think it was Tomiyasu who made a great tackle. Martinelli, who also had a fantastic game, took a decent shot, got a deflection, went out for a corner. I thought the corners throughout the game were pretty poor. I thought they weren't executed very well, but as long as we get one decent one, we get that moment at the end, it's all fine. Declan Rice got it back post. It seemed as if time just stood still. It was so similar to the Reece Nelson goal against Bournemouth. I think it was Bournemouth. Where he made that first initial contact and the ball just seemed to hang in the air. And as soon as it hit him, you're going, right, that's going in. You just knew it was going in. And I had to pinch myself. I didn't think it was real. I thought I was rewatching the highlights from last season. But first of all, delighted with the goal, delighted with the 3 points. But I'm absolutely ecstatic that was Declan Rice. And I think, you could see in his face how much it meant to him, not just as a footballer, not just as a player on the pitch, but as someone who's now a part of the Arsenal family. It was so massive to him, and he looked so proud. And I think, I don't want to keep bringing up Nelson's goal, but it was such pandemonium last year, and everyone was going mad, losing their heads. I felt like Declan Rice really enjoyed his moment and took every second of it in. And what a way to score your first Arsenal goal. Delighted it wasn't given as an own goal as well. I was really nervous that they're going to take it away from him, but you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that in such an important game. Absolutely fantastic. What a way to get 3 points, against United, and just ecstatic. It's ecstatic with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think she enjoyed it. The thing I was going to say about that is when the ball drops down, he's in acres of space. All the defence is slightly off him. He's got two experienced defenders in that team, Ten Hag, even though I don't like either of them. And he just seemed to have time on his hands, didn't he? And it was a bit fortuitous that it went in, but he was in the right place, right time, and he promised to virtually score in this match.
Yeah, I mean, were you worried that it was going to get ruled out? You know, was it Evans? I think Evans pull on Gabriel. I wasn't that worried because I mean, if you flip it around, you know, you very rarely get penalties, do you, for that? You never, the referee, the defenders pulling strikers on an attacking corner, you very rarely get penalties. So I wasn't too worried about that. But I mean, just
Gabriel was in front of Evans, wasn't he? He wasn't behind.
They were pulling, but they were both doing it. And I mean, what an absolute shocker of a cameo from Evans. You know, he had an awful 10, 15 minutes or whatever he did. You know, he got tore to bits by Jesus at every turn, and he gave away. Well, he didn't give away. He flicked off his foot, didn't it, for the deflection? But I mean, you summed it up brilliantly, Lauren. I just wanted to say, you know, Declan Rice since signing for the club, even on the day that he signed, and the brilliant photos and videos that were shared of him looking around the stadium, and you can tell that he's seen it as a genuine step up and a progression in his career, and he just, you know, when he first walked out at the Emirates against Forest, and then afterwards, and obviously this game is you know, at home to Man United is another level, and he elite mentality the lad's got for someone so young. He is an immensely technically so gifted. His positional sense is absolutely fantastic. His engine, I don't know if you probably can. 1 minute he would be alongside, or maybe 2 or 3 yards ahead of the back two, the front, the Saliba and Gabriel. 10 seconds later, he's supporting the strikers. You know, he's a box-to-box defensive midfielder. He can spray the ball around. He can head. He can tackle, and he's that. You know, he's slotted in, and he's just adapted to Arteta's tactics and just bought into the culture of the club. And I mean, the scene when he's running off and he's sliding on his knees, you know, like, he's such a huge player for us, and he's obviously came with a massive price tag, but you want, you know, when it really matters, you want those players to step up, don't you? You want them to deliver, and he delivered. And I mean, you know, it was one of those moments where you had to just double check it went in, right? You just had to be like, yeah, you know, unlike Jesus' goal, which we're going to talk about, obviously you knew that was in. It was like, you know, just a delay slightly, and obviously we all went wild. But oh God, well, you know, and it's again so close to losing the game. You're then in a position where it's you flipped it straight round, and we're looking at a win and what this can do for the season, because we haven't really started this season, have we? And we're only 2 points behind City. We're not defending very well. We're not keeping clean sheets, but we're there, and that's a sign of a good team. And in that moment, you're thinking, right, now we can go into the international break. If we can see this out, we can go into the international break with confidence. So great scenes. And I mean, when the camera panned out and all the fans are all, you know, everyone's engulfing the players. Amazing scenes.
It's a wonder he came back with any ears left, because they had his head down there, and I thought, let him up, let him breathe, for Christ's sake. But yeah, brilliant scenes. Lauren, 90+11. Fergie time. Yeah, we got the Jesus corker. Brilliant. Fabio Vieira again. But it reminded me, Arsenal don't really generally score scabby goals, do they? And this is one of those absolute last-minute peaches, like the Martinelli kind of thing at Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about that as well. And again, it's one of those Fabio Vieira absolute peach passes, perfect right into the foot of the attacker, and that's what you want. I think sometimes our players dilly-dally a bit too long on the ball. They wait for players to come up, but you know, when you have a player like Vieira there who can pick those passes, you need to let him do his thing. And I think what was so great in this goal was Jesus' confidence, something that we haven't seen in a long time. And you know, he took the ball in his stride, and He absolutely done Dallo, who I thought had a very good game throughout against Saka. Not an easy job to be defending against probably the best young right back in the league. You know, if not the best right wing. I can't speak anymore. The right winger in the league, and he did very well throughout. And you know, again, probably need to speak about this extra time that's going on. It was what, the 101st minute, absolutely crazy. That's not sustainable for a full season when, you know, we have so many games coming and all. I just think it's going a bit overboard. But yeah, look, we got the goals obviously in the extra time. What a goal it was for Jesus. Delighted to see him back. He looked so confident. He took it absolutely in his stride, and he absolutely did Onana. And I think, you know, everyone was singing his praise in the first half, but what did he really do throughout the game? I just want to put it out there. What did he really do throughout the game, apart from a few safe passes to his centre backs? You know, I wasn't overly impressed by that side.
Thank God they've got a better keeper. Let's do the match stats. Brilliant stuff. I mean, you won't enjoy a match surely as much as this in those final. We do it often, don't we? Win these games in the dying minutes. Match stats: Arsenal first, Man United second. Shots 17 for Arsenal, 10 for them. 5 shots on target for us, 2 for them. 55% for us possession wise, 45% for them. 532 passes, 462 for them. 87% pass accuracy for the hosts and 84% for the visitors. Right, player of the match. There's so many good performances. I think we might split the ranks here if we go to Jay first. Who's your player of the match? I've got a suspicion I know who it is.
Yeah, I mean, Rice got it, so yeah, I'm going to go with him. I wanted to say as well, the last time I came on, it was after the Palace game, and we were talking about Tomiyasu on the left and Partey on the right, and I was saying that you won't see Tomiyasu slot into midfield. Well, against United, he did it brilliantly, so it proves that I know absolutely all. Because when he came on, I mean, how good was he?
It's brilliant. I love Tomiyasu.
I mean, from a defensive, we all know he's a relentless defender, and he, you know, the way he absolutely negated Mo Salah last season. You know, that's the standout performance that most, you know, people refer to. But this was it on Sunday. He was unreal. You know, popping up in centre midfield. He's like, you know, who is that guy? So yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, I thought we looked a lot better defensively. Obviously, having our best back four is going to make a difference. I thought we dealt with pretty much everything aerially that they tried to you know, pump it long. I thought we dealt with it pretty well. United are strong in midfield, and it was a tricky game for those centre midfielders, but I thought we did all right. Havertz still needs to work, doesn't he? Still needs to improve his
sloppy progress.
But there's players knocking on the door, and we've got a lot of depth in that on that bench now, especially in midfield. We've got a couple of players that could come in and take his spot if he's not careful. But I'm going to go with Rice, obviously, because I mean, he's always an 8, isn't he? He's always an 8 out of 10 every week. And I mean, on Sunday he was. I mean, that is a brilliant midfield performance. So I'm going to take the easy option and go Declan Rice.
What about you, Lauren?
I was going to say the easy option there, Jay, but no, like you said, he was absolutely flawless, and you know, we signed a big player for big games, and I think that's something that Arsenal have probably missed, and that's probably what was just missing last season to carry us over the line. Yeah, Declan Rice would also be my shout, but I think I'm going to just, you know, pick something different here. I'm going to go for Gabriel, because I think his defensive awareness to jump back, you know, it was whatever it was, half a centimeter, that the moonwalk that he did was also another winning moment of the game, and I think it showed just how absolutely vital it is that he's played week in, week out. He is a monster of a defender. I think we've missed him at the back. He is so physical, he's so strong. I think he organizes an awful lot as well that we don't really see as well. So yeah, I think for his you know, match-winning astuteness, I'd have to give it to Gabriel, and hopefully we see him feature a lot more frequently in the Premier League.
God, she's nicked it off. Gabriel, it has to be for me. Declan Rice, there was so many good performances. Saliba was solid. Ben White played his part as well. Zinni diving in from out on the left, coming into midfield. Obviously, the attack, Martinelli was superb, but Gabriel was just huge. He was a giant. He gobbled up everything. He was physical. His possession and his awareness of where the threats were coming from, legendary stuff, really was. Superb. Right, let's get on to Kai Havertz. Hot topic, still not firing. How long do you give him, Jay? How long can you give this guy without harming him?
Oh, I don't think he's in danger of getting harmed. I think
No,
it's
I meant in the sense of, like, you know, he suffers even more.
yeah. So I think
confidence drop.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, because if you take him out, you know, against Everton, if you take him out, then you know that could destroy his confidence completely. Which I don't think that'll happen. I think he will play. I think it's just going to be. I mean, Arteta's ultimately got to treat him like every other member of the squad. If Fabio Vieira continues at the rate that he's currently going at, then it'll be very harsh on him if he's not given an opportunity sooner or later. And you know, you've also got Smith Rowe, who had a brilliant summer with England, and he looked sharp in pre-season, and we haven't seen him at all, really. So you know, potentially he might get some game time. We might see him pushed a bit further forward to take him out of that firing line as a centre midfielder. And so instead of dropping him completely, you push him a bit further forward. Only in certain situations. I'm not as a starter, because obviously Jesus is back now, who I still think is the number, you know, the first choice number 9. And Nketiah's had a good start to the season, but I think look, keep him obviously keep him involved. He's going to be involved. He's been signed as a starting player. No, I'm not saying he starts every week, but look, I'm still very much, you know, give him as much time as possible. You know, give him I still think there's definitely a player there. You can't write him off yet. His sloppy passing is frustrating. Like, there's absolutely no doubt. We all get frustrated by that. You know, the unforced errors, which, you know, I don't think any of us have an issue with a player that is maybe slightly off balance and he makes a mistake, or if he's challenged and he makes a mistake. I think it's these individual mistakes that he's making in certain situations of the pitch where he's not under any, you know, sustained pressure or intense pressure from an opponent, and he just completely miscues the pass, or, you know, he should have scored that chance in that first half against United. You know, I just think he needs a bit of luck. You know, he's low on confidence. He must feel that the pressure's on him and the spotlight's on him. And I think it's going to be it's a good time as well. I think the international break is good for him. You know, and I think, look, the team itself, like I said earlier, I don't think we're not firing on all cylinders. And I think because we're not, and we're conceding goals, you know, we've got a lot of favourites in this squad as a support, as a fan base, you know, and a lot of those favourites are in defence. We've already mentioned Gabriel. We all love Saliba like he's a family member. You got Ramsdale, you know, you got Ben White, Zinchenko, you know, they all, you know, I mean, none of us here really criticise our players. We're not that kind of group. But as a fan base, because the team's not playing particularly well, I think we focus on just the one player, and it's him. But he is making mistakes. Stick with him. Keep him involved in the squad. I think we might, now the Champions League is coming in, I think it's only a week or so away, we will see a lot more rotation. You've got that Brentford Cup game. There'll be rotation, obviously, for that, because it's not like we're going to Notts County or we're going to Leyton Orient or whatever. We're going to a Premier League club, so there might be a slightly stronger team than Arteta would have played in that competition. But I think we'll see some rotation, and I think he's going to be involved. And I think let's just give him a bit more time. As soon as he starts scoring and assisting, I mean, just going back to the game, he took that ball really well from Nketiah went in between the defenders. If he stays on his feet, toe pokes it in the bottom corner. It doesn't matter how bad he's played. We're all talking about him in a completely different way. And they're the fine margins, aren't they? And, obviously Arteta's, he knows what he's doing. And I still think there's a player there. And you just got to give him a bit more time.
Yeah, I agree. Right, Everton will wrap up on. But Lauren, the girls are back tomorrow in Champions League against Linksoping.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still listening to it on the pronunciation thing. We should breeze through this, shouldn't we? We have met them before, Lauren, in a quarter final of the Champions League, strangely enough, and we kind of drew. I think it was 1-1 at home, 2-2 away, and then 3-3 or something. So, what do you make of them? Do you know much about them?
I know absolutely nothing about them. I was going to say you've done a lot more research than I have. To be honest, I was more looking at this, to pronounce it, and I don't. So that's 5 more points to you. One thing I just wanted to touch on here is the structure, I guess, of the Women's Champions League. So we're going into I don't know what exactly it's called, the league. No, it's not the league. I don't know what it's called. I think it's like the league. Essentially, it's basically a small blitz that we're playing. So we're gone to Sweden now, and potentially we have 2 games ahead of us. So tomorrow we play Linköping, the Swedish team. Yeah, so you say it much better than I do. And if we were to get through that game, we end up going on and facing either Paris FC, or we have a Ukrainian team here, FC Krivabas. Again, I'm really sorry about the pronunciation there. So I think, look, overall,
I think that sounded good.
Yeah, it sounded good. No, I think overall we have a really, really great opportunity to get through this group. In terms of quality, we're, with all due respect, we're head over heels above the rest of the teams here. We have enough depth. We have the players to get through. The only concern I have is, we have 8 players who are less than 2 weeks back from the World Cup that just took place in Australia. So it's a lot of traveling. It's a lot to expect from these players who are essentially going to jump straight back in. Obviously, Beth Mead's back, but we heard in the press conference today that she won't be playing in these 2 games. But again, it's great to have her in the squad. You'd like to think maybe if it's going well, she might get on for 10 minutes, stretch her legs, get back out in the shirt before the WSL gets underway in October. So I think overall we have a very, very good chance, and essentially we're playing this qualification group to get through to another knockout round before we go into the 12 or 16 team competition, which starts in October or November. It's ludicrous. I think there should be a Women's Europa League as well. I think at this stage the game has grown so much, it's almost ridiculous that only 12 or 16, I can't remember exactly how many, I think it's 16 teams get to play the highest level of women's football year in, year out. And I think definitely a Europa League or some sort of secondary competition should be created to give other teams opportunities to play at that level, for sure. But I think we definitely have a very good chance. Looking forward to it. It's on at 5 o'clock tomorrow, 5 o'clock here, so it'll be 4 p.m. in the UK, and it's on Arsenal TV. So if you're missing the Gunners during the
let's hope the camera
international break, I don't know. I saw pictures of the stadium, and it looks fairly like an under-12s tournament. But sure, look, you know what? Anything's better than nothing.
Had an email from Jen, and it's quite a good question actually. Why is the girls' season so out of alignment compared to the men's game? Because you seem to, we've started, what are we, 4 pods in, and we're still waiting for the women's games.
I think the World Cup is a massive factor as well. That only finished, like I said, 2 weeks ago at this stage, and look, the players are straight back in. So there was quite a lengthy pause, I suppose, pre-World Cup. But now, the players need a bit of time to get back into pre-season, essentially, with their teams. A lot of new players have signed as well. So, obviously there's a lot of games coming up in a very short period of time. But I think what has knocked it out of sync so much has been the World Cup. And it seemed to go on very late. I don't think remember any other World Cup that went on right to the middle of August. I don't know if it had something to do with, time zones in Australia, or maybe it suited better to the weather. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it had something to do with American leagues. I honestly can't tell you why it was held so late. But it's a bit annoying because I think last season we were up and running a bit more in line with the men's game. But you have to remember as well, it's a much shorter season. We think, as I mentioned there, the Champions League is a much smaller competition than the men's. Even the WSL, there's only 12 teams in it. So yeah, there's not as many games to be played as there is in the men's. So probably another factor.
There you go, Jen. Arsenal have signed Leia Codina. What do you know about her from Barcelona, Lauren?
Yeah, honestly, not much. I saw, obviously, she was in part of the Spanish winning World Cup squad. She's been a part of the Barcelona squad as well. She wore number 3. I can't say I recognize the name, so I don't know how involved she was in, Champions League games and the majority of the league games. But I think overall it's an amazing signing to have centre back. We obviously lost Raffaele this summer. She went to join Orlando Pride in the US. So we're missing a very, very good quality centre back. Absolutely devastating, but any backup that we can have there, I think, is for sure needed. As I said, amazing experience. She's won it all last season with Barcelona. She's off the back of a World Cup win as well, so great experience to have in, and somebody with a winning mentality for sure.
Obviously, we've got all the girls coming back. Miedemar, Beth Mead, as you mentioned. Be great to have them back. Do you think we've now got enough strength and depth?
I think so. I think when you look at the players we got in, like I said, we got in the I can't think of her name now, Leah from Barcelona. We also got another centre back in, Ilestadt from, I believe that was PSG, and she lit up the World Cup as well. She was one of the highest scorers, even though she's a centre back. She's an exceptional looking talent. Obviously, the big name Russo coming in, and we also signed Lacasse from Benfica as well. So there's a lot of really good quality signings coming in, as well as the players who are coming back from injury, as you mentioned, Miedema, who we basically missed all of last season. It's probably going to take them a bit of time to get back up to the level that they were at, but I mean, we're talking about world-class Ballon d'Or nominated players here, and it's very exciting. They're going to be like new signings, hopefully, when they come in. Kim Little as well. She's back from her long-term injury last season. And yeah, I think overall, when you look at how much we've strengthened as opposed to obviously we lost a few players over the summer as well, but I think overall we're in a very healthy position. Who knows what's going to come with injuries? Like I said, there's a very small window there between the World Cup and back into normal season for the women. The congestion of games was a big factor and a big concern for a lot of people in the women's game last season. And as we saw, numerous long-term injuries, which perhaps could have been avoided had the season been better planned, or had better resources been in place. But I think overall, as a starting point, it's fantastic. The window does stay open until the 14th of September, so we still have a bit more time. I'd love to see another central midfielder come in. I think that's a position, obviously Kim Little is quite injury prone. When she's there, she's amazing. Leigh Williamson stepped up last season when she got injured, but she herself did her ACL. So I think that's one position that we could definitely look at strengthening. And like I said, we have 9 more days before it closes, so let's see what we can do in that time.
Do you think the pressure is going to be on the manager to actually deliver something this season?
I think
the jury was out for you last season, wasn't it? Because it was a bit of a broken, patchy season.
It was a very tough season. I think overall, looking back now, he did exceptionally well, given the amount of injuries that we had. At one stage, we literally only had about 13 starting players to excluding the fringe players, shall we say, due to those horrendous injuries that we picked up, and it was really unfortunate. So yeah, I think he's done very well. I mean, we're attracting really great names from across Europe. It's still one of the best clubs in Europe to be a part of. The Arsenal women, they're so well respected, well renowned, and I think we have absolutely everything that we need to go head to head with Chelsea. Champions League is obviously a bit more difficult when you've the likes of Wolfsburg and Barcelona there as well, because they're just next level. But even last season, as injury prone as we were, we did get to the semi-finals, and I think we should be pushing for minimum that as well. And I think this season we have to be looking for title, if not second place. I don't think third place will cut it this year, provided that everyone stays fit and healthy. And it's obviously hard to predict, and you don't really know what's going to come. But off the back of last season, given the transfers and everything that's happened over the summer, I'd like to say we should be thereabouts with Chelsea as we were the season before. It's hard to call though.
Right, one last bit to do before we get to the Everton game and our predictions. The UEFA president has come under fire for warning the Lionesses manager, Serena Wiegman, that her Coach of the Year trophy was heavy. There's no end to it, is there? Plus, we've got the Spanish president has finally been relieved of his duties for just 90 days, Podders, because he lip-locked with a player without asking them whether he could or not. What do you make of it all, Lauren? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
I think,
Just goes to show how
yeah.
far we've got to go still, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think, the story is coming from Spain. So the manager as of today, he's been dismissed. I mean, obviously this comes off the back of what's happened in the World Cup, but we have to remember this time last year, 15 players came out and said, mistreatment of his power. We don't want to play for this man anymore, blah, blah, blah. So it's taken long enough to come to light. And I think, overall, I think the reaction to what's gone on has been very slow. And I'm not sure if you both saw I think it was Morata had a press conference yesterday for the Spanish men's team, and he was given I would describe it as a very sanitized, standard. Oh, we disagree with Rubila's actions. We don't want to be questioned further on the situation. We want to focus on our games that we have coming up. And I just thought that's a very, very privileged position to be in if you can just remove yourself from that, considering everything that's gone on. But I think it just does show. I thought the comment that was made, that was just after the Champions League draw as well, I thought that was absolutely horrendous. And I just thought, read the room, everything that's going on. But it just shows you where we're at. And I think her reaction was perfect. Great side eye from Serena Wiegman. Look, I think
she's a class act.
She's amazing. She's absolutely incredible. And to mention the Spanish team as well, I don't want to speak too much about the negative side of the game, but I think it is important to mention it every now and again, and to say, look, there is so much more that we can do to improve it. And I think just focusing on the quality of the game is the best way to improve the game and make sure people know that, these are more than capable athletes, the top quality coaches as well. And they should be shown the exact same amount of respect as the men are. I think that's plain and simple how it should be.
Well, obviously we played United and we've covered that, but I've got a question for you and you, Podders. Henry, Saka and Lundberg, what have they got in common in the terms of Man United clashes? Jay, any ideas?
That must be something like Henry, Saka, Ljungberg.
Yeah.
They have scored home and away against United.
Oh, that's ever so close.
Or scored against United on their debut, something like that.
Lauren, any ideas?
I was going to go down the assist route because I think Saka got an assist, didn't he, this weekend? But I'm not sure.
Look, he's looking out the window. He's looking for inspiration.
So Ljungberg scored on his debut against United. Ljungberg scored. Oh no, I don't know.
How are you doing out there, Podders? I bet you're. I know this. Where is it?
Never lost a home game to United?
All of those have scored in consecutive matches against United. So that's the answer. But he was ever so close.
Yeah, I'd give Jay half a point there, I think.
At least half a point. Right, let's move on to the Everton game. If we lose to Everton at Goodison, he's going to be back, isn't he, in this blank spot down the bottom? But he's licking his wounds somewhere in a shed. Jay, what do you see? Everton have had an horrendous start again, haven't they? They're really banging trouble every year, and they fail to do anything about it. So we should be quite happy on the back of this brilliant win.
Yeah, we should. But I mean, I saw a bit of their game against Sheffield United, and I thought in patches they looked all right. They've got that new lad, is it Beto, up front?
Yeah.
The big, tall. He looks quite good, bit of a handful. And I mean, before that game, I don't think they'd scored a goal. So obviously they've got a bit of confidence. They got a point against Sheffield United. It's always a tricky game. It doesn't, it's going to be a tricky game. It's going to be a tricky game again. Sean Dyche, I suppose, will be, trying to get through to his players, get them to recall, what happened last season. But I'm sure Arteta will do the same thing, and he'll try and remind the players of just how awful it was to lose there. Look, we've got to be confident. but it's a tricky game, regardless of how bad or how much of a rough start Everton have had. So, anything other than a win, just especially with City being so relentless, feels like a loss. So, I don't even think a draw is good, going to be good enough. So I think we'll win. It's always a tricky game though. So I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to go super positive again. I failed to get it last week, but Neil came in and he worked his magic. He must have some sort of crystal ball or something. But I'm going to go really hard, really heavy, 4-1.
Nice.
We're going to whack them. Lauren.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0. I want one clean sheet, guys. Is that too much to ask for? Just one clean sheet. Just one.
It is, it's too much to ask.
Yeah. No, I think 2-0. I'm just after seeing there on my phone, Saka's been named England Player of the Year for a second season in a row. Consecutive there for him. So I think he's going to come back off the back of this international break, hopefully a bit more confidence, a bit more pep in his step. And then after that, we can, maybe give him a weekend off. I think the young lad's done enough. But yeah, hopefully 2-0. Clean sheet, praying that Ramsdale or Ray, whoever starts, can give us one. I think that would be really.
I think it's easier to find the holy grail than to get a clean sheet, isn't it, these days?
I think so. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm confident. I think it has to come at some point. So let's go for this Everton game because yeah, what I've seen, obviously they're very, very good. They're a difficult team to play at home. I wouldn't say they're a good team, but they're a difficult team to play at home because it's a fortress of a stadium. They have so much to play for. Obviously, they got the result against us last season as well. They're going to come into it with a bit more confidence. But this season, they've been pretty poor, pretty poor. Haven't been fully impressed with them. And I think, I think we have enough to see the game out. And like I said, I'm going for this clean sheet, guys. We have to manifest it. We have to manifest it.
There you go, Potters. We've given you our predictions. Jay's got the cannon on. I've got the cannon on. Lauren, where's your cannon? We're saying get rid of that badge and just bring the cannon back. Everyone knows who we are. So, Jay, lovely to have you back. I will see you next week if you're about. Lauren, just give you a little plug on, you were on Arsenal Above All with Michael and Neil. So you can pick that up on YouTube, Anchor and Spotify. Give that a look, Podders. And we will see you soon. Lauren, thanks also for the title sequence. Lauren did.
No problem.
She's a clever gal, isn't she? Right. Take care, guys. You look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. And you, Podders.
Bye.
See you later.